Superman, call all these and making green dreams come true. Tune in, on make it right. With voices from around the world shining bright. Every Saturday at 12 Eastern time, we're fighting for the planet with rhythm and rhyme. Don't look around. Sustainability news with solutions found. Changing the world with every Saturday at 12 for you. Passion, Alexa's unique style, Stephanie's wisdom, making us smile. Tina Catherine's fresh takes, Ramen's deep dive, Carl raising, keeping hope alive. So join us, stay informed, the future's in our hands. With Mother Earth First, we're making our stands. It's the Don't Clubhouse room, the climate's our fight. Every Saturday at noon, we're turning wrongs to right. Climate warriors, each with a tale, from carbon footprints to the greenest trail. We're here to inspire, inform, and lead. With Mother Earth First, we plant the seed. Don't look around. Sustainability news, where solutions are found. Like we can shut down. Alexa, TV, every Superman, every Saturday, we're here for you. We're here for you. Welcome to the clubhouse with a green.
Can other people hear Stephanie? I can't.
Yes, I can hear you, Joyce. Stephanie said that she's doing something, so she's gonna take a little while she gets done what she has to do.
Yeah, but she's back on stage. She had her mic on off. Steph, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Joyce. I thought the hearts meant that you could hear me, but no, it didn't mean that. So what happens is I go out and do some async chats to invite people to the room. Excuse me. And when I do that, and I come back in, I can't be heard. So I have to close the app and then reopen it. So sorry for that glitch, but it's been that way for a few months and I wish they'd fix it. Okay. So Michael, thank you so much for the opening music. And I want to welcome Maria. Maria, thanks for watching over while I was gone. Zombie, Joyce, Michael, Brian, Bev, Lady, Mark, and another Michael. So we're going to jump in and get started with our news today. And we usually start the newsroom. Well, first of all, let me just introduce your mods. I'm Stephanie from the United States, and our other mods include Tina Alvasalo, who just came in. Hi, Tina from Finland. Michael Yen from Singapore. JP Lowe from the Philippines. He won't be here today, I don't believe. Subramani Lakshmi from India, who is a little under the weather and won't be here. Philip Owens from South Africa. Alexa Casey from the US, who I don't know if she'll make it today. And am I missing anybody? I don't think so. So we're all over the world, and that's what we do, is bring you news from all over the world. And we ask that you just be conscientious of time when you're responding to stories. 3 minutes for your initial response, and then a minute to respond to others' comments to you. And we also invite people up who we know and who have active social media and other parts of the social world, so that we know you're not a robot. So it's not personal. If you would like to be invited up, please be sure you have an active social media link on your profile, because we do verify those. Otherwise, you need to get to know one of the mods, and then we're happy to have you. Um, and I think that that's about it. This room was started about 3 years ago with the idea of exploring the news going on in the world about climate and environmentalism and how people relate to it. So we're interested in your thoughts and how the news impacts you. And with that, I'm going to get started with. I just ask everybody to please ping people in. That's how we survive. We're one of the best attended uh, live rooms still remaining on Clubhouse, which is no small feat, I have to say. It takes a lot of stubbornness on our part. So please ping people in, and we're really trying to reach new voices also, people who are ready to engage or are flirting with engaging. But we also like our veteran voices also. Okay, so that's enough of that. And why don't I get to our first update story? I'm doing some protest updates. And this story comes from The Guardian. The author is Damien Gale, and the headline is Five Just Stop Oil Activists Receive Record Sentences for Planning to Block M25. This is out of the United Kingdom. And we've been covering this issue of stronger sentences to protesters in different parts of the world for about 2 years now. And this is the strongest sentence yet. So these climate campaigners were accused of conspiring to cause gridlock on London's main motorway. And the judge said they had crossed the line from concerned campaigner to fanatic. They were found guilty of conspiracy to cause a public nuisance for coordinating direct action protests. So I want to distinguish, they were not found guilty of protesting, they were found guilty of organizing the protests. They were recorded on a Zoom, telling people to come and participate in this. And there was other evidence too, but that was a big part of the evidence. These are the longest sentences ever given to nonviolent protesters, exceeding the last sentences of 3 years for Morgan Trowland and Marcus Decker, getting 2 years and 7 months for scaling the Dartford crossing. So on the call, Hallam, which is one of the protesters, said they intended to cause the biggest disruption in British modern history in an effort to force the government to meet their core demand, which is to end new oil and gas exploration in the North Sea. When the judge passed the sentence, he admitted there was a scientific and social consensus that human-made climate breakdown was happening and action should be taken to avert it. I acknowledge that at least some of the concerns motivating you are to some extent shared by many, but the plain fact is that each of you has some time ago crossed the line from concerned campaigner to fanatic. You've appointed yourselves as the sole arbiters of what should be done about climate change, bound neither by the principles of democracy nor the rule of law. Your fanaticism makes you entirely heedless of the rights of your fellow citizens. You've taken it upon yourselves to decide that your fellow citizens must suffer disruption and harm, and how much disruption and harm they must suffer, simply so that you may parade your views. All the defendants represented themselves in the trial. They did not have legal counsel. However, they did get counsel. Three of them got counsel to speak on their behalf for mitigation of the sentence. They were unsuccessful, however, and um, there, one of the defendants said in her own comments about mitigation, which is trying to mitigate the sentence, I want to remind the court once more that my reasons for taking action were not beliefs or opinions. Earth's life support systems are breaking down due to human activities, whether we believe it or not. They are not beliefs or opinions, and feeling strongly that this is wrong is greatly understandable, I would argue. I deeply regret that this action was necessary. I maintain it was necessary as the most effective option available to me. Supporters have expressed outrage at the sentence, which was came after a 2-week trial, and the judge ruled that the jury should not take into account evidence about climate breakdown, not only in the United Kingdom but in other parts of Europe and particularly Australia. There was a new report just came out of Australia on if sentencing is putting a damper on protesting. I'll try to bring that article to you next week. Okay. I have two other protest stories. We usually don't have a lot of comment about update stories, so I'm going to, we can comment
Do you
after
have
these.
that article and what was the sentence? I guess maybe I missed it.
Oh, okay. Let me pin it. Sorry, it's hard for me to be doing stories and pin, but I will pin it right now. So it was a 5-year sentence, 5 years of jail. Um, and the article was in The Guardian. So I'll pin that right now. And then I'll go on to my next story. Unless you have a comment, Brian.
Well, to a degree, yes, we can plan protests and stuff, but if we're going to totally disrupt stuff, especially, I know we've talked in this room before, but if you're going to disrupt traffic so bad that ambulances and emergency services can't even get through on a main artery through a town, and that's kind of what it sounds like here, that's going a bit too far to plan something that drastic. And I know we have different opinions on the level of climate emergency, but that's going a bit too far. And let's provide some solutions instead of just being a naysayer, which seems like Just Stop Oil is more of a naysayer than really giving a lot of solutions, in my opinion. But I don't have a bunch of facts to back that up. I'm just a lowly old
Yeah.
farmer here.
Hey, you count. Your voice counts. Okay. Thank you. I think that, there's a lot of opinions on this across the board, but the 5-year jail sentence is really what people are taking issue with. You know, maybe they do need some punitive action, but 5 years in jail, pretty rough. Okay.
I wonder if
Um,
I wonder if they'll be eligible for parole and that kind of thing with that system. In the US, oftentimes they wouldn't end up serving that long. But anyway, I don't know about Europe, I mean, UK.
yeah, Tina. Yeah, thank you, Joyce. Tina, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
While we're waiting for Tina to come back, just to say that this was actually being discussed on the radio today with opinion from the public around whether or not it's a harsh sentence, especially because it's about conspiracy. No actual action had taken place.
So, Zombie, did they not end up having the protest? I thought they did.
Well, this was for the protest has happened before, and the people that protested in 2022 when the government approved the new project coming back on their own legally binding targets, they receive the 3-year sentence and a 2-year sentence for climbing up. In this case, the 5-year sentence is only for conspiracy of causing disruption. So for having that meeting and for calling for protest, and seeing how little coverage there has been of the thousands of people that marched a couple of weeks ago in London, it seems, particularly harsh. 5 years for having an intent to cause disruption where no disruption has actually taken place yet. But
Okay,
that's
thank
the
you for
point of, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. So this was the two protesters that got 2 years and 3 years. These were the organizers of that protest. I see. And so because they were the planners and organizers, they got 5 years. So, all right.
No, this is about this group of people were having a Zoom meeting planning to organize a disruption.
Yes,
So we
yes.
don't know if we would have gone. That's why the crime is conspiracy to.
Right. But
I'm not
but
sure if he can be. He gets compared to other conspiracy for terrorist attack or conspiracy of other type. But it was literally for having a Zoom meeting and talking about organizing this.
okay. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, Tina, let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, great. Oh, yes, I was supposed to say, I said, thank you for sharing this story. I'm always very interesting how we communicate, and protesting is one way to communicate, especially when we talk about climate change. So I live in Europe, in Finland, and I don't particularly know UK law, but I have to say that it's extremely hard to give 5 years sentence to go to jail. However, if we look at the company who was making this case, if I don't correct me if I'm right, that it was oil company. So law suits are always between lawyers. So of course they might have been presenting very, very good lawyers, and perhaps in the part of the protesters they couldn't show their innocence as well as they should be. The second thing, what I wanted to bring it here is that protesters and manifestos, they are always mirror of the society. And we know that UK there has been also Tory government, Conservative government, a lot of let's say disappointment from young people, how Britain became very harsh for young people, perhaps regarding to education, economy, and resources resources in general. There are also a lot of homeless in Britain among young people. So all those things, what's going on in society itself, and of course polarization. I see here in Nordic a little bit same kind of rhetoric what we hear every day, that there is the half of the people they support protesters. Some of them might be radicalized also, and then there is a half of the people who are more conservative or on the middle, who would like to not to be disturbed in traffic, or even jeopardize for example, ambulances and fireworks and cars to pass in the busy roads. So, it's interesting and very sad. 5 years is a lot, but I guess this is also the sign for the protesters. It's a sign from the society itself that they want to reduce this sort of manifestos. I'm just guessing, but I see very same situation in Finland. We haven't put protesters in the jail, but we have a right-wing government at the moment, so atmosphere is going more strict and harsh for protesters, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Sorry for the dog. Thank you, Tina.
Doc
Uh,
moment.
oh, are you still talking? Sorry.
I say doc moment. First doc moment
Oh,
in the
dog. Yeah. Yeah.
doc.
Yeah. It's because the postman's out there. Anyway, Michael, did you want to say something?
Yes,
Thank you, Tina.
I think that um, these protesters, I think it's one thing to protest, but it's another thing to disrupt roads that could potentially hurt medical services and etc. And I think there was already too much of the public, too many people in the public that got hurt in those protesters. So I think it's very important to kind of recognize that we can fight for climate justice, for to advocate for more constructive climate policies, but we must do so with some level of decency and with very clear plan of action rather than just disrupting public activity. Because I mean, last time it used to be much more effective, but now I think um, we we need to be able to look at other alternative ways to voice it out. Because um, I think I think the biggest problem is not the fact that the politicians are not really interested. It's more the fact they don't know what to do. So I think we should start with how can we uh, educate and teach them how to do it rather than just telling them to do it. Because if they do it the wrong way, it also is not good as well. Yeah, that's about it.
Joyce.
Yeah, and I was just going to say what I always think of also is that being very disruptive may be counterproductive to the movement, because it may turn more people away from supporting it than it really helps anything. So I don't know, maybe if they had planned a protest where they were not saying we are going, if they had said we're going to do this protest, we're going to be very non-disruptive of traffic, or do it in a way, I don't know, would they still have been in trouble, or are they allowing protests that are not meant to be like disrupting traffic and so on? I don't know the answer.
Yes, they are. Yes, that's the issue, is how much it's disrupts society. So, previous to the 2 and 3 year sentences, they were getting months. Um, for example, I just blanked on the young protester's name. Greta. She was arrested at a university in England for attending a protest, but the charges were dismissed. She was I think they were lining up outside the university, and there had been a series of university protests last year, and she was among a few, like 5 people arrested at this particular one, and her charges were dismissed, I believe. So I don't think they weren't preventing people from going to work or anything. They were just walking on the university sidewalk, and and then they stopped and they protested. I believe there might have been some spray paint put on a window or something like that. Or I think Tina or Zombie or whomever may know what do you get? Can you get reduced sentences for good behavior in England, UK?
I'm not really sure. I would guess that it's possible because at the moment the UK is facing a overcrowding of jails, so they are planning to release whole offenders, reduction of pain release early, except for very few violent crime, and but everyone else is kind of due to be released. I don't know if reducing from 60 to 40% of their sentencing. But I think the whole point of putting such a high sentence is really the deterrent. But I wanted to make a last comment on the fact that when we say people should be protesting, in the organized traditional way, organized marches, I wonder how many of you heard of the thousands of people that marched in London in May. So to me, it's, unless you actually heard more of that coverage of that huge event, I think their tactic is effective, and I suppose it's balancing the risk of people now. Ambulances will know that the road is closed. The M25 is blocked most of the time, anyways, 3 times a day. The peak hours is gridlocked.
So they didn't slow it down that much, huh? Okay.
No,
So
it's generally really gridlocked and completely standstill, with several accidents many times a day when you listen to the traffic. So
yeah, okay. Well, in the United States, if you have good behavior, you often get your sentence reduced quite a lot, often, and for much more serious crimes. I mean, for very serious crimes, you can get a reduced sentence for good behavior. Um, but then often, for more serious crimes, the sentence would be longer, right? So anyway, I think that the irony of this is that this protest was to demand that the United Kingdom stop North Sea oil and gas exploration. So the irony is the new Labor government, that they're going to stop that exploration. So that was one of the defendants' argument for a lower sentence was, well, the new government now agrees with us and they're going to take the action that we were demanding. Um, but the judge didn't buy it. So anyway, it's kind of ironic.
I
Okay.
wonder if the new government can pardon them, just like what could happen in our country where the president can pardon people.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. I mean, but it's often in other countries not used as liberally as it used here, or at least under certain administrations. Okay,
Yeah,
so
can I add
last comment
something?
for Tina, and then we move on. Go on,
Yeah.
Tina. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that how we treat protesters in each country and in particular time, it's politic itself. It's always been politic because protesting is the way to do activism and it's the way to do politics. So we see this phenomenon in every time in everywhere differently, and I wanted to here add that in Finland, young people, particularly, they do less in jail when they have a sentence, and yes, you can go. You can do less when you have good behavior, but everybody who is in first time, who have a sentence in first time and sent it to the jail, they just do half of their sentence first times, but second time if you go, then you have to do the whole, for example, 5 years. In this case, if they would be Finnish young people, they would do only 2.5 years.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, well, as we know, democracies are different everywhere, and it's something. This is one of the great benefits I've learned from Clubhouses. These distinguishing differences in different aspects of how countries are run. So, I also want to remind everybody we've done so many stories on this. One of them is, the research that's been done about protesting and how often protests precede change, precede institutional change. So, I think that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, let's move on because we have a lot of stories to cover today. This next story I thought was interesting. The United States just had its Republican National Convention, as you probably are all aware, and there was a notable absence of climate protesters. Um, so they were conspicuously absent from the RNC agenda and the surrounding protest area. There was a particular area for protesters. There were a few climate protests. The Republican Party platform makes no mention of climate change, and it promotes lifting restrictions on oil, gas, and coal, and believes in drilling as much as possible. So, and American Opinion is currently says that Americans have significant concern about climate change. 70% favor taking steps to reduce climate change, though only 48% of Republicans agreed. So climate defenders, they're a relatively new group. We talked about them a lot. You've heard of them protesting like the congressional baseball game. They've gone to big meetings and they interrupt lunches and they do a lot of organizing. They actually got an audience with the White House earlier this year. So their statement was, as far as I'm concerned, the Republican Party is fully owned by the fossil fuel industry. In the past, the party was more open to environmental policies. With Trump and the current state of the Republican Party, climate change doesn't exist. However, they did focus their protests this summer. There's a big, called the Summer of Heat series of protests going on across the United States, and that's where they changed their attention to. The Sunrise Movement communications director said, "We decided not to go to the RNC and focused on talking to people around the country about how to fix the climate process. They're still deciding if they're going to go to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month." There were a handful of marchers there in Milwaukee. They had a big march that was just 3,000 people, but they were expecting 5,000. Climate Power brought their protests in a different way. It commissioned an artist to create provocative art in 6 storefront windows a few steps away from the RNC meeting. And this art illustrated the consequences of the influence of oil and gas industry on politicians. In one window, there were four figures leaning over a conference table with their heads buried in the sand. In another window, a man struggles to fix an air conditioning unit in a bedroom where the heat has melted crayons and a ceiling fan. So they were doing that through art, and that got a lot of attention by people walking to and from the convention. Okay, so that's that story. I want to just go on to the next. Any quick comments on that? Okay. But so you know, at our national political conventions in the United States, it's very common to have protests. You know, it's kind of the same as the cops. People are protesting them, trying to influence the party platforms and politicians because they're all there. Well, not all of them are always there, but most of them are there. Okay, this next story. Let me grab it and pin it. Uh, is called this is about Citibank, and we've been covering them. um oh, sorry, I'm going to the wrong window. Here we go. Pinning this for you right now. All right, this has been these protests, the summer of heat protests, have been going on every day. And they focused this summer primarily on Citigroup Bank. And there was a protester caught on video shouting, "Punch him, the blankety blank, in the blankety blank head, get a machine gun and blankety blank, kill them all." Um, it was caught on video, this employee saying that. And uh, so what the protesters are doing is they're trying to prevent Citibank employees from going to work. So they sit down in front of the doors to Citibank every morning really early and hold hands. And so I I think that Citibank has opened up other entrances, and I believe that they were in negotiations with the protesters, but those have failed according to a Bloomberg headline. I don't subscribe to Bloomberg, so I couldn't read the story. The city spokesman told the Post, this is a New York Post story, "We are looking into the matter and it will be addressed appropriately. These comments are unacceptable." In a uh, video earlier, there was a picture of a man who is identified as the Citigroup General Counsel, Arthur Cohn, and the video shows him shoving a young woman who was protesting. But Citibank said that was a false claim, and the employee was hit by a barricade before he pushed it out of the way. So we don't really know exactly what happened there. Citibank puts up these metal barricades. I think it's Citibank, maybe it's the police. And the protesters remove the barricades. They're just, loosely set up, but they're metal. They kind of look like, you've seen them all before. They look like bike racks, kind of. Um, so the woman that used the profanity about the guns killing the protesters was identified as an executive assistant to the head of the financial strategy group, and has worked there for 25 years, according to her LinkedIn profile. There were 50 demonstrators there at the time, and they're going to continue. Their demands are for Citibank to stop funding fossil fuel expansions. I believe they've invested something like 400. I want to say 400 billion. I saw the figure earlier. I can't quite remember what it is. There are other simultaneous protesters going there protesting Citibank's financing of military equipment for the Israeli government. So there's two simultaneous protests going on there at the same time. So that's about it. I mean, you can read the story. It's a brief story, but it's ongoing. So it's lots of stories to read. Any quick comments on this story? Okay. So
Yes,
go ahead,
I will.
Tina.
Yeah, I will shortly comment. It is, this is just to see. It symbolized this story very well. How also America is polarized, so you get very heated, and there is. I guess if I interpret it well, some protesters might radicalize very much, and using of course hard language, and on the other hand, who has a gun, this um, senior working in the office, uh, of course then triggered, and felt being threatened. So it's very sad that we will find ourselves using violence, using guns, using rhetoric, calling each other out. I am personally more, as you know, also Michael, and I think it was choice, and I think also you, Stephanie, and rest of us maybe, in supporting constructive way, when the each side is heated, you will find out yourself be shot, as in this particular story, and especially because people are carrying guns in America. It's much more usual than here in Europe. We don't allowed everybody carry the gun, even when they're protecting buildings and offices.
Thank you, Tina. Yeah, there's a really different gun debate in the United States versus other parts of the world. Definitely. Bev?
Yeah, this could get worse before it gets better. I mean, would I personally, in the effort to stop the Vietnam War, witnessed people being beaten by police? Personally, witnessed that with firsthand with my own eyes. I think this could get worse before it gets better.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't get my mic off there. Thank you, Bev. Pretty much agree with you. I found out, yes, so Citigroup has poured almost $4 billion into coal, oil, and gas projects since the Paris Agreement went into effect in 2016. And also, there's been between 40 to 50 arrests of these protesters this summer. Okay, we're going to move on to our next story. Michael, you're up with the Alberta Electricity is Coal Free story pinned to the top. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think today I want to share some good news in a way. Um, so Alberta is known to be the oil and gas district of Canada. Similar to how Houston is the oil and gas capital for America and Aberdeen in the UK. So because of that, they've always been very focused on fossil fuel, and they're very well known for the fossil fuel sector. But I think right now I think the people there are trying to shift away from that and focus a lot on decarbonization. So this news actually shows that they are making very huge progress. And for the first time in more than a century, they are being coal free, So as you know, coal is a very huge emitter of carbon emission. They are also causing a lot of health issue, like in what is going on in China with a lot of smog, a lot of health, a lot of complications from from the miners. They get a lot of health issue when they work in the coal mines, the dangerous environment, all the way down to burning them to produce energy. So the fact that they're already moving away from it means that they have already somewhat improve their energy security to better um, include renewables and other form of energy to supplement or even replace coal. So I think this is a very huge and good progress. If Aberdeen can do it, I mean Alberta can do it, so do other oil and gas capitals, so is other cities which have increasing energy demand. And I hope that this also will encourage more um, cities, more countries to actually invest more in renewable energy infrastructure, because they are starting to be more commercially feasible compared to last time. And I think this should give banks less excuses to actually invest in coal power and other fossil fuel related infrastructure, because uh, I think in this time and age, we need to recognize that money is something you can't eat or bring to your grave. And it's very important to kind of um, really take note of what kind of legacy we're trying to bring back when we choose to destroy the environment. Yeah, that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Breakthrough story. Any comments? Okay. I guess I would say there's an action. We try to see if there's actions associated with our news, and I think the action would be to write a letter to Alberta's government, whoever that you should write it to, and congratulate them on this development. Um, any other ideas, Philip?
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, it's all good and well that they are using renewable energies, but their main export product still remains coal and gas and oil products, you know. So, that just doesn't make sense. The renewable energy that they're using there, no doubt, comes at the hell of a expense. Um, and, if they can stop producing and exporting oil and coal from Alberta, then there might be something to celebrate. But if they continue exporting coal and oil and fossil fuel products and then tout themselves as being green by using so called renewable energy, I mean, yeah, nothing to celebrate in my eyes. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So, moving on, I just want to say hello to Nicholas and Minnie up on the stage, and hello, Mark. Mark, did you want to do a story today? If you do, can you say something in the chat, please? And we'll bring you up later. Sarah, Christoph, uh, Dev, Juan, Michael, and Linda. Good to see you guys all. Please ping people in while you're listening. We really need to expand. We're at the crux. Communications is the key to the future of climate change. So please ping as many people in as you can. Step aside from feeling like you're bugging people, because we have to make this kitchen table conversation or we're lost. Uh, so, yeah, Nicholas, exactly. I bug people a lot. Um, so, um, and then, we welcome people up. We really ask that you have other active social media. So it's not personal. We just want to be sure that there's no bots or, bots, fake people coming up. Or we have to know you. So either get to know one of the mods or have an active social media that we can verify. Okay. And we're happy to have you up. Um, and we're here to talk about the news and see how it impacts our lives. And we also are encouraging action. So, one simple action is to share any of these news stories with anybody, 5 to 20 people today. So, please consider that. All right. So, we are moving on to um, Zombie has brought us another coal story. This is a different aspect to this that I hadn't read before. So, Zombie, you have the stage. and I'll pin it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let me just pull up the news from BBC News, and it's about a trial case going to the High Court for the opening of a new coal mine. Those protests were going on. So was a permit that was allowed in 2022 to open a new coal mine that will be the first one in 30 years. The approval for the mine aims to produce coking oil for the use in steel manufacturing and was granted in 2022 by the last government. Is being challenged by climate group Friends of the Earth and South Lake Action on Climate Change. And they are challenging the decision on the ground that it did not consider the planet warming greenhouse gas emission from the burning of the coal, but only the emission from the running of the mine. So the mine was approved on the basis that they will run a net zero operation themselves by using electric vehicles and by offsetting any other emission. So one of the challenges that the plan for offsetting their own operation is not actually credible, and that the decision did not take into account the burning of the the coal being mined, which is being mined for burning in the steel industry. Also bearing in mind that in these days the last steel plant furnaces has just been closed in Wales, and the new steel production will not utilize coal, will pass to other form of energy, mostly electric or hydrogen. So the court will take about 2 weeks to decide on this. One of the other argument is they could mine the mine could not correctly claim that digging the coal in the UK would substitute coal mine in other parts of the world, meaning that there would be no extra greenhouse gas emission globally. So that was one of the arguments for a lot of these projects that have been approved in that period, is that it will strengthen the independence of the UK instead of importing fossil fuel from abroad, and was a step back from the legally binding targets that the UK set themselves and from their international pledges. Another argument from the Friends of the Earth is that the government decision to approve smacked of hypocrisy and undermine the UK international reputation. So the ruling that is the reconsideration now is taking into account the greenhouse gas emission from the coal that is being mined, and it was planned 33,000 tons over the next 20 years. But the other argument from the mine is that it would bring about 500 jobs, mostly for local people. The last comment from I don't know if you heard, we had a change of government in the last couple of weeks. So the newly elected Labour MP for Workington, Josh McAllister, said that the mine was a risky bet on a dying industry and that the region needed well-paid jobs that the government will deliver with its green industrial strategy. The last I would like to make is this is again a test of the ruling that we saw last month that stopped another oil drilling plan. Just stop the um, oil drilling plan at Horse Hill that was planning to open 6 wells, and it was ruled by the Supreme Court judges that stopped the project on the proposal on the ground that the planning permission have not considered the downstream emissions. I will ping the article as well in the chat. Well, I put the link in the chat. Any comments? I think
Okay.
it ties really nicely on the article we did about the protester and gives a bit of context of the Just Stop Oil. I think of those action were at the time when the government was coming back on their own targets and approved a number of oil and gas explorations, oil, gas, and coal explorations.
Thank you, Zombie. Yeah, it is a interesting manufacture steel. So that it's a dying aspect of the business.
I can confirm that as Wales has been historically a producer of coal, and I'm quite close to a big steel manufacturer, and the last furnace kind of closed about a couple of months ago.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Philip, I'm just wondering, thank you very much. Okay, I want to move on now to any other comments? Last call.
Yeah, I was just
Nicholas.
wondering, yeah, Sempe, so where is that coal going? Who's going to use it?
Well, the coal mine have been closed in Wales under Thatcher, and the steel plant has been winding down operation over the last few years, and at the moment it kind of close with steel being produced at another UK plant that has already upgraded to electric furnaces, modern furnaces.
Yeah, but where the coal being mined, exactly where is it going?
Well, there is the plan for the new coal mine to be open has been stopped at the moment, is under ruling, and there is no coal being mined in Wales at the moment. Apart, well, there might be some little operations, but they are very tiny. There is mostly museums about the coal industry in the region.
Nicholas, it's being so it's sold to steel manufacturers. They would be the targeted customers. It's called
Yeah,
coking
but
coal.
that outside the UK then.
I
No,
think
Nicholas, I
inside.
think you need to read the article.
Okay.
It's a project that has been approved to be opened in the future. So there isn't a coal being mined going anywhere because the project has not been approved, and there have been no new coal mines open in the last 30 years. Mostly the coal mine in the area here, they opened between the late 1800s, 1860, 1880s, and they closed gradually up to 1970s, with the last ones closing in the 1987, I think.
So I guess the question Nicholas is getting at is would this be exported to other countries or sold within the United Kingdom if it was mined?
Well, if it was mine, it was sent to steel plant. I don't know whether they will send it because the UK steel plant has been upgraded, but there is no, from the way Nicholas asked the question, is like, where is this coal going now? But at the moment, they stopped the project to be mining the coal because it's a
Yeah.
dying industry. So
Right.
the
But it's
reason
not
the coal
it
is not going anywhere is staying in the ground.
well, I guess the question is it a dying industry only in the UK? I suspect it's not a dying industry in other parts of the world. I mean, it is, yes, slowly, but
The one in
other parts
Italy
of
as well closed a few years ago. Again, I can't give you the exact, whether it's about 20 years ago or less than that, but for the same kind of reason, they've been upgrading their equipment. So with the reason that with coal becoming more expensive or moving away from it, so I suspect that if in other part of the country, as long as coal remains subsidized or remain a cheaper option, the industry will not upgrade. Um, but a lot of the equipment, the solution for better way to manufacture steel are already existing. Obviously, require an investment in the part of the steel operations.
I just want to say to Nicholas, if you want some coal, South Africa over the last couple of years have exported 50 to 60 million metric tons of coal, mostly to Europe and of course to Asia. So still abundant coal resources available if you want.
Okay, well, I also use electricity, but the question is, of course, where that one comes from. But yeah, as a matter of fact, just a very short thing that was once upon a time in the 90s when I had a sales call down in South Africa, by the way, and it was about absolute rotary encoders and about a piece of equipment that loaded coals onto ships, and they need to be positioned. So I guess that if you wanted me to be part of the coal industry, at least, well, I sold sensors that controlled the loading equipment for coal in South Africa. So yes, Philip, I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so thank you very much, Nicholas. And Philip, Carlos is scheduled to be up next and he's gone. I wonder if you can roust him. Um, in the meanwhile, I want to welcome Mark and Jim and Nicholas up to the stage. And hello, Babak and Joe. And I also remind everybody, please ping people in. Very important. And also, if you can remember, try to RSVP for our room every week. And a slight commercial announcement, which we'll talk about more, is on Monday, we're having a special room in the Mother Earth First House on the intersection between democracy and climate change. Is climate change hijacking democracy, or will it lead to more cooperation? What the political trends are around the world in impacting climate policy, and comparing the three US presidential candidates' climate policy. So we hope you can join us at noon on Monday in the Mother Earth First House, and our special room on democracy and climate change intersection. It's going to be very interesting. Alexa, Tina, and I will be modding, and we'll have a lot of the people here will be presenting information. If you would like to present information about your country and the climate policy trends, we would appreciate that. Or if climate policy has hijacked voting or election work or campaigning or anything, any aspect of democracy, please join us on Monday. And we welcome your participation. And if you can ground your comments in some kind of documentation, that would be even better, but not mandatory. Okay. So since Carlos isn't here, I want to jump to Mark. Mark, did you have a news article you wanted to share? It wasn't entirely clear. And how are you today?
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all. Um, oh, in terms of News articles, I don't have any off the top of my head, but the steel industry is worldwide is still definitely the majority. Not hasn't switched to electric furnaces. Hopefully, this takes place quicker than a few years, because it's a very easy solution, and then that will definitely ease the demand for coal, because if they don't have the need for the input, and they have the electric furnaces, I mean, they so one is directly related to the other. So it's very important that the steel industry quickly moves to electric furnaces.
Just a quick intersection, Mark. The electricity that runs those furnaces are going to come from what?
So could be wind, could be any renewable energy, anything but petroleum.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the question, Nicholas. Um, okay. Is someone's mic off? Whose mic is off? I don't see. Whose mic is off? Oh,
Philip.
Philip. Philip, were you able to find Carlos?
So yeah, I did. He was in the room earlier, and I just got a message from him to say that he's not able to stay through the call, but hopefully he comes back in a bit.
Okay, great. All right. So we're going to proceed then with my story. Carlos's story was about new science out of MIT, that light can vaporize water without heat. So he was going to share that, but hopefully he'll be able to do that this week or next week. So we're moving on to my story pinned to the top. I'm going to play this video first of all. Real estate remains in focus with interest rates close to 7%, but the rising cost of capital may pale in comparison to a new worry for homeowners. In some cases, climate change causing home values to literally fall off a cliff. Diana Olick reports in the latest installment of Rising Risks. From Dana Point, California, to Long Island, New York, to Nantucket, Massachusetts, some of the nation's priciest coastal real estate is in an increasingly precarious position due to climate change. They're buying them knowing they're going to lose them. This Nantucket home was listed last summer for just over $2 million. But in the fall, a barely notable nor'easter wiped away an astounding 70 feet of the beach it sits on, thanks to sea level rise and unusually intense rainfall. The house sold this year for just $600,000. The buyer told the Boston Globe the price mitigates the risk. And it's not the only one. There's been several. One sold in the mid sevens and one sold in the mid eights, which I know that sounds like a lot of money, but those houses, if they weren't at erosion risk, would have sold for, I don't know, 10, 12 million. Nantucket real estate agent Shelley Lockwood just launched a seminar for fellow agents to help them reprice homes at risk. I saw houses selling and I thought, oh my God, that's not worth that. It's falling in the ocean. On the eastern end of Long Island, in Montauk, back-to-back storms this winter had the community scrambling to bolster its beaches and protect its multi-million-dollar homes as the water came in faster than ever before. Where we've seen flooding in the past and the water subsiding right away, it's not subsiding anymore. We have a friend has a $10 million home, and he's not even sure what to do with it because
If he sells it, it's never going to be the $10 million that he bought it for. Looking at zip codes just on the east and Gulf coasts of the U.S., these 33 have a median home value of at least $1 million. And in just these areas, a combined 77,000 properties are at significant flood risk, according to models by First Street, a climate risk data and analytics firm. That is roughly $100 billion in potential losses. I think we just put our head in the sand. Values weren't going down until the last 10 years, and it's still been kind of quiet reduction. Attorney Chris Farley is working with Nantucket homeowners to help reduce their property taxes as both the beach and their values erode. Some homes have been reassessed while their neighbors haven't. This house behind me, for example, is $2.2 million, but the house two doors down is $500,000 for their land value. And the house on the other side of that is $250,000. All three homes sit on the same cliff that is quickly losing ground. In the last 6 months, this has eroded, I would say, 12, 15 feet of sand is gone. And these protective tubes, so we're not supposed to be seeing this. This should have been covered. On one beach, it's erosion. On another, the rising ocean has pushed sand so far as to bury the homes. This was not like this last fall. This has happened this quickly. All this sand coming up here like a snow dune. See that? That was their septic. These things are not usable anymore. Once utility wires and septic systems get exposed, the town has to condemn the property. Homeowner John Conforti watched our interview from his front steps. He's owned his home for 42 years. We all say one more year. Without beach erosion, how much would John's home sell for? Right now, if it wasn't at erosion risk, 2.5. And now, I don't know if you could sell it. Maybe 5, maybe 500, maybe. But you'd have to have some buyer willing to lose it. As more and more homes lose their value and see their property taxes reduced, the local economy could take a hit, meaning taxes for everyone could then go up. Nantucket residents are voting on which parts of the island need the most help and who will pay for it. While in Montauk, experts are reassessing coastal resilience plans made nearly a decade ago after Superstorm Sandy because they're already outdated due to climate change. Back to you guys. Welcome back. Okay, so there you have it. That's only one aspect of this story. Its key point is that 55% of U.S. citizens believe, or U.S. Americans, whatever, believe global warming will hurt them a moderate amount. This is a new study that came out of Stanford University and Resources for the Future. So this is impacting everything from higher insurance rates for homeowners to inflation for groceries and lost earnings due to heat having really broad economic impacts. Insurers are raising premiums for homeowners in many states across the country, pointing to the mounting losses from natural disasters as a factor. Extreme weather and flooding is raising prices for everyone at the grocery store, and wildfire smoke and heat waves are lowering U.S. job earnings for many, many workers. That doesn't even mention the issues of rebuilding or relocation after a hurricane or a flood or a wildfire. These disasters that are growing in frequency. So an American born in 2024 can expect to pay about $500,000 during their lifetime as a result of climate change's financial impacts, according to a recent study. It's hitting everybody in their wallets, and there are a bazillion ways to feel that impact. We're just mentioning some of them. So, however, Americans are in denial about how it's going to impact them. Let's see. So, in 2010, the parallel study found 63% believed global warming will hurt them, and now it's down to only 55%. So we're going in the wrong direction. Although they did say that they think respondents to the survey were thinking more about physical than financial impact when they answered the survey question. So
So in the United States, weather disasters caused at least 150 billion billion a year in direct damage. And that was a study, the survey passes was done in 2023. The economic fallout is going to be increasingly adverse as we increase over, 1.5 degrees. So heat also impacts worker productivity. So that means absences from work, illness. Um, it also impacts how they can do their work. And these are in sectors like manufacturing, crop production, utilities, healthcare, real estate, administration, and transportation. Let's see. Workers' foregone earnings amounted to a total of $125 billion a year between 2007 and 2019. At least one day, the city of New York ranked as having the world's worst air pollution. And if you go to work on that day, you're going to get an impact on your health. Workers lose about 2% of their weekly paychecks for each day over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The average person, that would equate to about a $30 pay cut for each day over 90 degrees. Okay, so that's, pretty much it. They talk about inflation and some other stuff, but that's pretty much it. Any comments about the economic impact? Someone was just flashing their mic. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Bev.
Well, I think it's interesting how people are in denial. And it's probably natural that people would think that they don't have, it's not going to happen to them. But I saw a map of the United States about 4 years ago or 4.5 years ago, and the area that I live in was still was the map was titled "It's the best places to live in the United States for climate change." My area where I live was in it. Now, yesterday it was 100. I live 30 miles from the coast, and yesterday it was 103 degrees. That's not livable. I had some heat stroke, and my dog and I had some heat stroke issues, or heat related issues. Then another thing is that one of my children lives in the Pacific Northwest, and that was an area that was particularly not supposed to be affected by climate change. Well, they've already got some stuff happening there, and uh, it's and yeah, it's just becoming obvious that we're all going to be affected in some way, more or less. And then there's also the migration. There's climate migration. So you've got people that can afford to move, and they will move to those areas. That'll drive the real estate prices up, but it also is going to mean overcrowding, all kinds of problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Okay, well, save your pennies because we're all going to be impacted. Was that you, Nicholas, flashing?
Yeah, that's me. I was a little bit interested about what you said that New York has the worst air pollution worldwide.
It was one day. One
One,
day.
oh, yeah, okay, then I buy it. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I made a mistake of going jogging, but that was in Shanghai. I had severe pain in my lungs after going jogging in the park in Shanghai some years ago. The air has gotten worse since. It's even worse in Beijing. Um, Colleagues of mine who work in Beijing, they wear FFP2 masks, not because of COVID, they wore it before, just because the air pollution is so horrible you can't see the street the house on the other side of the street. And I've been to New York, and I never had those problems. So that is just one-off occasion. Otherwise, major cities in China, probably elsewhere as well, are way worse. Doesn't make it any better. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I thought it was the worst, like on average, because that is definitely not true.
Right. Were you wearing a mask when you were jogging?
No, I wasn't. I thought I was naive. I have to say, I thought, come on, it's just another city, right? And I went out jogging as I always do. but that in a park, which was very nice, by the way, at night. But when I came back, I mean, I could seriously feel the pain in my lungs, and I never felt that before anywhere else in the world. And Shanghai is not even half as bad. And this was 20 years ago. It's gotten worse since. And I never felt that anywhere else in the world. So I figured I might as well smoke another cigar. It's not going to make a big difference.
Oh my God. It's gonna make a big difference. Okay, so I'm gonna do a health warning here. This is a
Yeah,
health
don't
warning.
worry, don't worry, don't worry. I got a long, as a matter of fact, I mean, just to make sure that you don't have to worry about me. I had a health checkup, and I do regular health checkup every year. And last year, I want to brag a little bit. Yes, I do want to brag. And I did this lung test, and they said they never seen anybody with so good lungs ever in that clinic.
Wow, that's great. So what part of the world do you live in?
Right now, I live in Germany. Right now, I'm in the Philippines. I came from Dubai. I'm all over the place. But yeah, born in Sweden, by the way, a little bit complicated. Yeah,
But you did your health check. You did your health check in Germany?
I did it in Germany, yes, in the German clinic
Yeah.
with a doctor I've been to for many years, who also has my whole health history. And yeah, so far, clean of
Well,
bill,
that's great news.
bill of
Great
clean
news.
health. That's
Yes, I'm not going to worry about you then, but I do. I mean, that either indicates that the rest of your German compatriots are not exercising enough, or you're over exercising.
Or maybe it's just that I talk too much. That might also help my lungs. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm still going to do the health warning for everybody else. Please, please be aware of your environment, your air pollution, anything, if you're going to exercise. And if you have any questions, you should all know, check the air pollution indexes. Everybody has them. They're all over the world. It's free to check on your phone. Check them before you go out. The only thing you can't, I mean, you can protect yourself somewhat, not entirely, but the sad part is we can't protect the animals. We can't put masks on animals. So, all right. So, any other comments, Joyce?
I was just going to say, I wish that these stories, like what's happening in Nantucket, if they're happening in places that are not aware or denying the climate crisis and voting that way, places like Florida, I wish they would become more aware of the connection between climate change and their insurance prices and, their houses washing away. And I imagine some of them have conspiracy theories as to why these are happening that denies climate. But anyway, I don't understand how they can ignore it. Anyway, maybe in the next few years they will no longer be able to ignore it. Anyway, thanks. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. I think you put an article in the chat. Thank you, Joyce. Let's see. Linda, did you want to comment on this story? I'm inviting you up. While we're waiting for Linda, anybody else? Okay, Linda, did you want to comment?
Well, yes, I do. People are saying, people just go, oh, well, that's just the way it is. So if you have a house that's on the coast, a very real possibility of it eroding and falling into the ocean, you're just going to go, oh, well, are we treating our oceans like a garbage can? I'm concerned that if it really is imminent that a house could fall in the ocean, the EPA, somebody should speak up and say that house has to be torn down and moved. You can't allow all this garbage in the ocean. We make life so hard for the life in the ocean, which protects us, provides oxygen for us. I don't think we should just go, oh well, houses are going to fall in the ocean. That's it. We've already got so much garbage in that ocean already. So that's the comment I want to make. I just think that we should, if this is a real possibility, things should be done to move homes and not just allow garbage to fall in the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, indeed. I mean, I live in Northern California and I'm often on the coast, and I often see these houses that are just built right on the edge, and then these propping up, building materials preventing some of them from falling over,
Hello.
and that wasn't even because of climate crisis. That was just because of normal erosion. And I often thought people are crazy to buy houses this close to the ocean. Why would you do it? Because you have a good view? I don't know. I guess there's just a lot of craziness. So, but now we have a reason not to buy houses near the ocean.
Well, you know,
Michael, or who was going to
oh,
speak?
Yeah.
Linda, and
Yeah.
then Michael. Linda.
yeah, I just gonna say, I listen to Dan Miller's Climate Chat Club, and there's a lot of talk about optimism bias, which is why we don't act more aggressively or with more commitment about the problems of what's happening to our environment because of climate disruption. I'd rather call it climate disruption. Anyway, and I think it's optimism bias. These people just think something bad will never happen to them, and it's we have the ability to see things. We just don't internalize it and say, yeah, this could really happen. We need to do something about this. Maybe we need to consider taking down our home. It's not going to be, maybe it can be moved. They move homes, but people just, a house on a cliff. You're just tempting fate. It's hard to comprehend that, except that maybe people just don't have a problem comprehending that could really happen to them.
Yeah, we think we're immortal. We do think, in a certain sense, that it's common that we think that. Thank you for bringing that up, Michael.
Yeah, I think I'll give my view on this is that because I've been attending a number of climate finance programs, and a lot of the bankers and insurance companies will not fund or even make homeowners and asset owners to pay a higher premium to insure their assets if they build their infrastructure in very disaster prone areas. And given that climate change has increased the number of forest fires, bush fires, flooding, and etc. Usually, those properties will not get insured. So any damages caused by flooding and etc. usually have to be paid in full by the homeowners. So I think we need to acknowledge that climate change has a cost. And there's many type of costs, there's many type of risks as well. So physical risk is like what I mentioned, weather related incidents, and transitional risk is like, there's a heat wave, so I use more electricity to have air conditioning or to have a fan, that increase my energy bill. If I am if the government decided I will want to have a carbon tax, then I pay more when I emit more carbon in my lifestyle. So we need to start educating people on what those risks are. If they, even if you are not like a climate advocate, it does affect you one way or another. So we need to start having this conversation with the public, or else Oh yes, and one last thing is like waste also is a very good example. Like in the UK or in Europe, if you don't recycle your waste, they won't collect your waste. So and you'll get fined for your waste. So all these things, are things that we need to talk, bread and butter issue. I think one Republican, I think if you know Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's the famous movie star. He say very well, don't try to don't try to sound like we are saving the planet. Sound like you are saving yourself. Like pollution. You talk about pollution. You talk about cost. People tend to listen. So it's also how we communicate such topics that can make a difference.
Thank you, Michael. Indeed, it is. It's how you talk about it and what's the entry point. And I often, I've said this a lot, that I think the main ways to connect with people are the things that affect them every day, through food insecurity, housing, health, and what's the fourth one? I can't remember. But anyway, these bread and butter, everyday survival issues. That's what people relate to. So enter at those on those topics. Nicholas, I saw you flash.
Oh, hey, Stephanie.
Yeah, sorry,
Go
I
ahead,
just want
Nicholas, and then Linda.
I wanted to comment quickly on what Lydia said. As bad as this, when a house falls into the ocean, a house is typically built out of wood and metal and tiles. Wood obviously being biologically degradable metal, steel, not dangerous to the environment. The tiles being stone, also inert, not going to cause any harm. There's a little bit of plastic, yes, and pipes typically. A little bit of copper in the wiring, also not a big deal. But that little bit of plastic that goes into the ocean, it's bad, of course, but compared to all the other plastic that goes into the ocean anyway, it's totally neglectable. So, yeah, I think the least of our problem is that the house falling down into the ocean is going to pollute it.
Well, exactly. And I mean, it's like not normal. I mean, if you're a fish living there, I don't think you want a house in the middle of where you live. It just doesn't seem healthy. But I wanted to say something about Michael's point. Oh, sorry, there's a truck that just went by. Um, Michael was mentioning about the insurance rates going up on homes that are near areas that are vulnerable to climate. Well, in a perilous situation due to climate disruption, and uh, there's I think an expression, money talks, or money. Yeah, money talks, and I think that maybe people that have optimism bias will be more influenced by the fact that their insurance rates are going up, and then they're going to say, "Oh, this is a problem." Maybe if they won't recognize that there's a serious problem, their house could fall down a cliff. Maybe the insurance rates and the people that back them with money will help them to realize, oh, this is a problem. We have to face up. This is a problem. I just thought that was an interesting point. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think, again, I'll repeat this. An American born in 2024 can expect to pay about $500,000 during their lifetime as a result of climate change's financial impacts, according to a recent study. So this, I expect that figure will go up. And I think it also applies to other people in developed nations, and of course different varying degrees around the world, to everybody. So I guess the moral of the story is tell your children, or your grandchildren or your great grandchildren, to start putting away, saving for, create a climate crisis or a climate change budget item in their budget, and start saving money for climate change expenses. Okay, with that, we're going to close on this topic. We're going to go on to Philip. Philip has two stories for us, one about 3D forest space mapping and another about greener Christianity. So, Philip, the first one has been pinned to the top, and you have the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. This is just a space mission which I think we should all sort of approve of, and it's, as you mentioned, the mapping of the forests in terms of their general structure and carbon content. And it's a implement called the JEDI, Global Ecosystem Dynamics Investigation, which has been doing research since 2018, and they plan on mapping forests up until 2030. And I mean, it's just extraordinary the amount of knowledge that's already been gained in terms of forest structure, the carbon content that forests contain. I think they speak in the article about forest in Colombia and Brazil, which contains 1.4 billion tons of carbon. And of course, it's also important in order to do studies about the losses of carbon when forests are being either clear cut or, of course, burnt, as we saw in Canada last year, and probably going to see again during this fire season. So yeah, important work that's being done, and this it was in hiatus, this operation, but this is now again activated 6 months earlier than expected. So good news. I mean, it's great when technology like that is being utilized to for us to understand more about the dynamics of our terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. And the technology is just amazing. You know how with X-rays they can determine even the size of the trees, the structure of the forest, and of course then the above ground carbon contained. And then Stephanie, if you can just link the next short story, it is about the Sami, the only real sort of indigenous group in Europe. And of course, they stretch all the way from Norway through to Russia. They are very linked to the land. They are in some areas. They herd the reindeer, and just really affected also by changes in climate and changes in ecosystems, and really at the forefront of some of the struggles against mining, against logging, and against these renewable energy impacts when it comes in the guise of huge wind turbines and massive solar farms. But yeah, they are one of the things that they are on the forefront of is trying to unite some of the churches, Christianity, to be more green. Because of course man is seen as the top of the creation in Christianity. I mean, we rule over everything else. But I mean, in reality, we can see now that that's not really the truth. We are just as equally as important as all other life on this planet, because together we make this ecosystem that we've become used to work. You know, so they have a sense of gratitude for what we take. So when we hunt, for example, we have to thank the spirits for what we gain. When we log, we need to thank nature for the bounty with which it provides us. And of course, now we can see that we are overstepping. We're taking more than what we should, and all of us will be struggling due to that. So I find it interesting, this concept of trying to get Christianity to go into a greener space. There's this thing where they talk about where some of these Sami people, when they want to log a tree, they would knock on it 3 times. And of course, it's got the practicality in it, because in the sound of the knock, you can hear if the tree is ready for harvest, if it's young, if it's too old, or old enough, or not yet old enough. So there's those kinds of practical considerations, but apparently it's also the 3 knocks in acknowledgement or thanks to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So I think that religion should play a bigger role in creating awareness about the climate and about these earth changes, because of course if you are a religious person, you should believe that all of creation is important, and everything was created by the creator, and we have no right to destroy things in the way that we do. So both these articles are from Mongabay, and I mean, I just want to give a big shout out to mongabay.com and urge everybody to go there once every couple of weeks or month or even weekly, and just scroll through the vast insight that's available through their excellent reporting. So, yeah, that would be the action item. Please go and visit mongabay.com, and surely you'll find some articles there of relevance and interest to you. Thank you so much. If there's any comments, be great.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. Interesting that this is the only recognized indigenous group in Europe. I read that in the story. That really surprised me. So, are there no other indigenous groups in Europe? Or is Europe so old that they don't have any? Are they all blended into one?
Uh,
Uh,
Sorry, I have to break in here because that is not entirely true. It might be before Christianity, as they write here, but then again, the Scandinavian peninsula was habitated long before Christianity came there, as a matter of fact. If you really look at the history, what happened is that you had the ice that came down, the permanent ice, what do you call it in English? We call it the inland ice that moved down all the way to Central Europe, basically, making the whole Scandinavian peninsula totally inhabitable. Nobody was there, except some polar bears, maybe. And that gradually moved up again. And the first to colonize, if you want to say so, the Scandinavian peninsula were actually the Germanic tribes. And they were there much before the Samic people was, and this is scientifically proven. The Samic came much later, obviously, because they came from the east, and they came to the northern part, which was then also very much uninhabited for the reason that in the southern part of Scandinavia was more fertile ground, it was warmer, so it was easier to do agriculture, etc., um, um, animal husbandry, etc. And for whatever reason, they are called indigenous, although they actually came there later. Both of these are facts. I don't really get it. But yeah, if it is like you want to be indigenous just because you were there first, well, then the Germanic tribes were indigenous. But then again, why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? Yeah, some were first, some were later. Yeah.
I would just guess that it's because their culture stayed so distinct.
Yeah, well, so was the Germanic culture. I mean, so one culture is no better than the other unless you're doing human sacrifice, I believe. So yeah,
Well, thanks for that, Nicholas. But that's
yeah,
also how I see it, is that they
yeah,
still maintain quite an ancient culture and tradition and way of life that's very much connected to nature, whereas most
yes,
of the rest of society has kind of moved on. Then I must also agree and say that all of all of us are indigenous peoples. I mean, all peoples have. Some of us has just
yeah.
moved around much more than others. But we all moved through Europe, for example, and we all are from Africa. So some of us have traveled further, and some of us has gone full circle, and some of us
Mm,
stayed where we've been.
mm. That's all true, but I think it's actually amazing, to put it mildly, that the Psalms are considered an indigenous people, while the Germanics are not considered indigenous people, although the Germanics were there before. I don't really get it. It's not a big deal for me. I just think it's like, what does this come from?
I just would like to to say something about um I guess regardless where who was there first, regardless we all should have that respect for nature, and to recognize that wherever we are, it doesn't matter where we are or where we go or where we move. It is so much to respect the place that we go. Sometimes we go someplace and we just think, and then we can, because their money is there, somebody has the right to do whatever they want, and that is what really it is affecting all of us, is the absence of respect for the place that we go. If I go to if somebody comes to my home and does not respect my home, I'm on my right to tell that person to leave. So we should do the same. We should respect the house and the country or the town or wherever we go. It's our obligation to respect and to not to think because we are or somebody have more money or more fame or more whatever than somebody else, they have the right to do whatever they want to wherever they go. And that should has nothing to do with any religion or with any group or with any culture or whatever was there or anywhere place. It has to do with us, with the awareness that we affect wherever we are. We affect positive or negative the place that we go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I was just going to say one other thing is that this does help, it reinforces what we were saying earlier, that you're going to care about it if it really affects you a lot. And since these people are living in a kind of traditional way, more close to the land, it's definitely influencing them a lot. And so I guess that's maybe the main part of the story that's relevant for this particular room. Anyway, thanks. I'm done.
Well, that is a big issue in the United States. Original peoples versus new peoples, I guess you could say, original livers on the land versus invaders. I mean, there are all different kinds of levels. It happens over and over, but it's a huge issue in the United States. Indigenous rights, or as we call them here, Native American rights. So very big issues, big issues. So, which is why it caught my attention, because in the United States, we're of course much younger, but there's hundreds and hundreds of recognized Native American tribes by the government, and also quite a few hundred, if not 1,000 or more, tribes not recognized by the U.S. government. So that's a big, sub tribes, subgroups. This, it's very, very dense issue. So, okay, well, thank you for bringing that to us, Philip. That attention, both those stories to our attention. Um, I want to just say hi to Sarah and Christopher, Michael, Kitty, Candy, Albert, Gianluca, and Caro. Nice to have international people here, of course. That's what I love about Clubhouse. And just drawing your attention to a very international room that we're doing on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, on the intersection between democracy and climate. Is climate change going to be hijacking democracy? What are the political trends globally that will impact climate policy? And what are the three U.S. candidates for the United States presidency? What are their climate policies? We are not having a political debate about U.S. presidential politics. We are only looking at their climate policy. We're not even going to make a decision on who's best. That's up to all of U.S. voters to decide. Um, so, but I'm particularly interested in political trends and how it's impacting climate policy, and also something very not talked about very often is, if you're going to vote and you have a deadline of voting like in 3 days, and your house is flooded, or there's a hurricane, or there's a fire, your house burns down, and you lose your documentation, and you need ID to vote, or you need ID to register to vote. How do you participate in democracy then at that very essential level? I don't think cities across the world are looking at that issue, and we need to address it. So that will be at the top of the hour on Monday, and hope you all can join us. We'd love your participation. If you want to talk about the political climate policy trends in your nation or city or region, please come and speak about it, because we cannot be everywhere in the world. And if you can bring an article that exemplifies it, that would be great. I'm going to try to do a list of articles relative, so that people can look at them in their own leisure. Okay. So also that brings up the fact that I posted that room at the top. So we'd love you if you RSVP. It helps our algorithm. It helps our exposure in the restrictive Clubhouse community for live rooms. And Also, we have a newsletter, and I will try to post that at the top as we're proceeding here. We just have a few more minutes. And Alexa updates that newsletter about once a week. Today's stories might not be in there yet, but they will be. But all the other previous room stories for the last few months are in there. So, and we're going to move to the action part of our room. And what this is part of our room is about is asking just a quick, popcorn style, what action have you taken in the last few days for improving the climate crisis situation? Anybody go?
I'm taking a more active role uh, in politics in the United States. Um, uh, Leaning toward, definitely becoming more, wanting to become more active in the um, party that is likely to be more positive towards climate.
And I can just say that those of you who are aware of the Rewild and Pumalanga project, our project with the Social Employment Fund has just been re, re well re-awarded. So we've got another probably a year or two where we have access to 20, but they want us to onboard another 10 field workers who's assisting us with local land restoration in terms of invasive alien plant control, control of bush encroachment, anti-poaching, and also some activity with regards to the production of biochar. Because of course some of these people are excellently suited to become char masters, and of course there's lots of opportunities in terms of what can be done with biochar. So we are happy about that, and we were concerned that the project might not be renewed, but fortunately we just heard last week that it's being renewed, and this coming week we are starting operations again. So thanks to all who's been sending us some good thoughts.
Congratulations, Philip. I'm really happy to hear that. I guess I can go next with these are things that are fairly routine for me anyway, but I'm not using my air conditioning because I'm opening the windows at the appropriate times. In fact, I go to bed earlier so that I can open them when it's coolest. And also things like I save the water from like doing the dishes, and I water my plants, and because, well, in California anyway, a lot of energy is used for pumping water. So the more you save water, the more you save energy. So anyway, and I got a heat pump this last year too. So anyway, those are just ongoing things. Anyway, thanks. I'm done.
Okay. Well, I know that Linda is driving an EV. I know Michael is he's a sustainability consultant. So every day he is doing something. Um, I am, I don't know. I haven't done anything in the recent days that are different, but this isn't really climate related. It's kind of survival related. Is we just had our house bolted to its foundation this week for earthquake reasons. So the federal government was offering grants to um, Californians, I believe, all Californians to get your house bolted for earthquakes. So I'm thinking the federal government's expecting the big one to come pretty soon. It was a pretty generous grant. It paid for the entire thing. And it took them about 3 hours to bolt our whole house to its foundation. So it was, you know, they tell you you should do that, but a lot of people don't do it because of what Linda was talking about earlier about optimism bias. So hopefully, if the earthquake comes, the house won't fall down or slip or whatever it's supposed to do. Um, and I recommend any U.S. citizen to look into that grant program and get that done if you own a house, if you don't already have it done. Um, I'll invite you up, Albert. I think you said you wanted to come up. I didn't. I wasn't quite sure. Um, so, oh, you don't want to come up. Okay, sorry. So I have. I'm tracking climate legislation in our state. My group had a really bad record this year. We had about 6 to 9 bills we were working on, and we're down to one. All of them have failed this year. So it's a bad year for us, but we're proceeding. That doesn't mean that no climate legislation is passing. It's just that we pick the hardest bills to pass, like, um, like state employee divestment in fossil fuel investments and the Green Amendment. And we pick really bills that need a lot of work to get them passed across the finish line. We usually have a little bit better success rate, but this year, I guess the bills were just too hard. So I'm kind of tracking that. We're kind of in a lull right now and trying to figure out what we're going to do for the second half of the session. The legislators are all on summer break for a couple more weeks, and then when they get back to it in August. So that's when I'm going to probably be more active. Although right now, during this summer break, we're supposed to be calling up our legislators and meeting with them and lobbying them and getting to know them and building a relationship with our elected representatives. And it's the better, warmer relationship you have with your elected politicians, the more often you can get them to have a meeting with you or listen to you. So that's what we're supposed to be doing in this downtime right now. I haven't done that, uh, but I'm going to be urging one of my groups to do that. So you create a Zoom meeting with your elected representative. You bring a couple topics, and you just basically are growing the relationship because politics is relationship based, and I would also say that climate change is relationship based too. So if you can warm up your relationship with your legislator, that would be a really good action in order to get better climate policy and law. Okay, I saw someone flashing. I'm going to stop talking, and as soon as this next person has the last word, or maybe we'll go around and give everybody last words. So who is first? Philip, you were blinking, and then Nicholas. Did you have a last word, Philip? Do you want to announce your room? Okay, hello, Arlene. Um, Philip has a room every Sunday in the Geosphere room called Earth Matters. So I encourage everybody to go to that. There's climate chat on Sundays before Philip's room. It's still listed on Clubhouse, but Dan primarily hosts it through YouTube and a Zoom meeting. But you can go to any three of those socials and get involved in it. And then Sustainability, as far as I know, is still having rooms on Wednesday and Fridays. They might be on hiatus. I don't know. Sustainability Leadership is still meeting once a week, I believe, on Fridays. Vision Z, who was here earlier, hosts that room. And we are here every Saturday. So please spread the word. And we are having our special room, which I posted Monday, on the intersection between democracy and climate. So I'm just going to go around the room. Last words for just a few seconds. Maria.
Thank you so much. Um, I just want to say that I am very happy to come to my family and to see how people is every day, how they use little things like saving water and reused the things that they have, and how they help each other and help people who's working and collaborating. And I'm so happy to see that those little things um, are things that are big, they are done in the bottom. What we do here at the bottom at every single day, it really matters to the whole. And I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Indeed. And when other people see you doing it, it can start a conversation. And you can say, why are you doing it? Well, because of climate change, climate crisis. Okay, Zombie, a few seconds, last words.
Well, many congratulations to Philip and Brewald Mumpalanga. And look after yourself and the biodiversity around you, for wildlife. Thank you, Stephanie, for hosting this room.
Thank you. By the way, mods, we need a host for next week. I cannot mod next Saturday, and maybe after that too, the following week. Tina, last words.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, hosting the room, and Philip. There is man's best friend on your profile. Thank you for that. And there was the dog moment also. I just hope there will be more trust and loyalty in the words politic, because we are just falling apart. So what I do basically, it's holiday time now here in Finland, but in the 1st of August everybody is coming back to the work. So I'm trying to do everything I can to advise companies to create policies which are supported, tackled climate change, but also to build a more constructive discussion culture, not polarized, and also build a loyalty and trust between all the part of the different ideologies. So I think we just need to stick together.
Thank you, Tina. Indeed. Philip.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for mentioning the Geosphere Earth Matters room that will be hosted tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central African. We'll be discussing a podcast which is entitled Eat, Poop, and Die. And it's all about animals as the arteries of the biosphere with podcaster Joe Roman. So looking forward to that. So anybody welcome to join us tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Michael.
Yes. So currently I'm working with a US investor to organize a hackathon on developing ideas in the wearable. So if you are biodiversity, you're helping to track, endangered species to help conserve them, or helping to address climate change through wearable technology, do join it. The investor do invest in, climate tech innovation in wearables. So advice, I mean, it's tomorrow, it's on Monday onwards. They provide free training on how to develop your own technology. That's about it for me.
Thank you, Michael. Joyce and then Bev.
Okay, well, I haven't mentioned this in a while, so I might as well mention, if you're not a member of Citizens Climate Lobby, you should join that. It's international, and it also has local groups, so you can help globally, nationally, and locally, and you get lots of great information and support. Anyway, and you get encouraged to write letters to the editor, which is an interesting and fun thing to do. Anyway, thanks. I'm done.
Thank you, Joyce. Yes, letters to the editor are very influential in the United States uh, politics. So strongly recommend you develop that skill. Not that hard. It seems kind of intimidating. It doesn't have to be long. My husband's had a number of letters to the editor published in the local paper, and it's not that hard. And you don't have to have all, it don't have to be perfect on every argument and everything. You just say what you feel. Okay, Bev.
Just to thank you, Stephanie, and for all the mods for hosting this room. It's such an important place. We can meet from all over the world. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Bev is a former mod here and a steadfast participant. We really appreciate you, Bev. Nicholas and then Linda. Nicholas is on the phone, so we'll go to Linda.
Oh, hi. I feel on the spot. Well, I want to get more involved politically because I believe that we need to find ways to address this issue with climate disruption that reaches everybody, and it's realizing there are solutions. We just need to all be on the same page. So I'm going to get more involved with Citizens Climate Lobby for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good to hear, Linda. We know you are steadfast also. We really appreciate you. All right. So thank you, everybody on the stage, and thank you, Kitty. Kitty, we haven't heard you talk. Someday I'd love you to come up on the stage. Candy, good to see you again. Albert, of course, steadfast supporter, and always every day doing so much work that it's probably too much for him to even brag about. Gianluca, Caro, um, Jermaine, Lee, really nice to see you. Reminder about our special room on Monday at the intersection between democracy and climate. And please spread the word. Please RSVP. Please RSVP for this room as often as you can. It really does impact our profile, how high we're noticed in this app. And I posted the newsletter previously. I will try to post it in the chat now. We're going to have our closing music, and I wanted to just share with you about this artist. We've been going through a lot of the finalists of the Environmental Music Prize in Australia. That's been going on since 2022. And this artist is named Woods. The name of the song is Forever After. I think the group is named Woods. Um, or no, I guess she's named Woods. I'm not clear. Anyway, so this is a healing hike through the Crampaigns. And why did she write this song? Because she's a daughter of a marine biologist and a park ranger, and the environment's always been very important to her and is one of her core values. It considers it her most personal work, and this new album of hers has an accompanying Australian hike for each song, using sustainable fashion, rewilding collaborations with the Diggers Gardening Club, and more. Her aim is to get her audience outdoors for their mental health, as I know it has helped her. It helped me greatly. Um, she's won. Woods has won many music awards in Australia, and she does an accompanying video and says, for my new album, I wanted the visuals to be very simple, low impact process. I asked my audience their favorite hikes, and with their feedback, I put together a map of national parks. I catered each hike to a song, and I took only 2 friends out with me, a photographer, creative director, and a director of cinematography. We shared one car, and it was very instinctive as we were discovering each location as we went. We went into the simplicity, lent into the simplicity, and let things happen how they naturally should, rather than overthinking it. The process felt very sustainable, which is what I have been seeking in my music practice and my relationship with my career. So you can find her on YouTube. And with that, I will play Forever After by Woods. Here we go. There's a power, there's a fire deep inside of you. There's a danger, need a savior. Oh, which road to choose?
you're still here, holding on to you. See it glisten in the river, see it in the
Take care, everyone. Good day, good night, good evening, wherever you are.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.